Hello. So, the new Resident Evil movie just came out. No, the movie didn't just come out. The trailer just came out. Sorry about that. And I wanted to talk about it. There's a bunch going on right now. NBA playoffs are crazy right now. I've got to make a bunch of videos about that. But I really wanted to make a video about this trailer because I am super hype about it. First off, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I have been one my whole life. I think that was the first horror game that I ever played. And I remember being terrified playing Resident Evil 1. You know what I'm saying? As a kid, I was a little girl as a kid, man. So I could not play it. And I remember getting older, going back and playing it. I remember playing Resident Evil 5 on my PlayStation 3 when I was younger. I remember playing Resident Evil 4. I think I had it on my Wii, actually. I had RE4 on my Wii. I didn't get to play the original Resident Evil 2 or 3, which was weird, but and then it wasn't recent, I guess, but I did play Resident Evil 2 and 3's remake. I liked them both. I played Resident Evil 4's remake. No, I haven't. I'm lying. I haven't played that yet. I just played the original, but that's just because it's pricey, so I'm just waiting for it to go on sale. I'm gonna play Resident Evil 7 and 8, but I'm gonna make a walkthrough of those. But yeah, there's I'm a big Resident Evil guy. I love it. And the games that I haven't been able to play, like Requiem, I'm not playing that until it goes on sale. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just do not want to spend $70 on a game right now. Which is fair. But yeah, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it. So first off, it's gonna be directed by Zach Cregger. I think that's how you say his name. And if you know anything about him, he's probably the biggest horror filmmaker right now, outside of probably Jordan Peele. Most of you probably know him from Weapons or Barbarian. I'm super excited about that. Those movies were great, especially Weapons. I think most people did like it. I'll make another video on that, I guess, now that I think about it. But yeah, I'm really excited for him to be the director of it. If you go through a lot of his interviews, he's talking about how with this game, it's not going to be an adaptation of Leon or Jill or Claire or Chris's stories. It's going to be taking place during the Raccoon City outbreak, but it's going to be through the eyes of somebody completely random, a random civilian. And it's going to be more of a thing on focusing on how to translate those game mechanics to a movie form, which I'm really excited about. The scavenging and scrounging about for different ammo and resources, and scrounging about for different green herbs, pink herbs, all this all the crazy stuff like that. Crafting, how you're gonna have a limited inventory, how you're gonna have to, I gotta put my shotgun shells away to make room for this key that I'm only going to use for this one specific door, but I kind of need it because there's no other way to progress, so super excited about that. But I did want to talk about excuse me, sorry, about the weird way people are talking about this movie, especially on Twitter right now. Now I get it, Twitter isn't the best place to go for people's actual opinions on things, especially with how you get really monetized off of interaction bait and rage bait. You'll see people with verification checks, and instead of making actual discussions, they're talking about they're saying things that they know people are going to interact with solely because it makes them money, right? Shoot, I just looked up the Resident Evil's trailer, under discussing film. Third comment, this isn't Resident Evil, this is a zombie movie adopting the Resident Evil title. You can't make all new characters in a story then slap the Resident Evil name on it and say it's Resident Evil. Stupid opinion, obviously. Resident Evil 7 and 8, two of the most successful games in the franchise, were literally just that, revolutionized the game. So obviously it doesn't make sense for people to say it. My biggest issue is it feels like people are treating the Resident Evil games are just Leon and Chris Redfield's story, when in reality they are an anthology series, if we're being honest. It's all something that's happening in the same universe. And while you have games that follow a lot of the same characters, we follow Leon for multiple games now, and the most successful games have been following Leon, right? Obviously Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil Requiem now, You know what I'm saying? Those are like three of probably the most successful games of the franchise, and he's been the main character for all three of them, right? But you'll see, like, shoot, Resident Evil 2, like, that technically, yeah, it follows the same universe, but it was a completely new character, right? And it just kind of builds on that. Shoot, Resident Evil 7, as I just said, completely new character, completely new narrative. Like, no familiar characters came into the story until like the very end. But even then, we were still following a completely new guy, right? And not just that, but you're also playing in a completely new way. You know, Gone was like the more third-person, super action-heavy, you know, like superstar feeling of all the older earlier games. It was more like a traditional, more like an Outlast type of survival horror, which worked, you know. Shoot, in most of these games, Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Requiem, you know, while Leon was like the main character in that, Grace, Ashley, like, especially Grace, it's like she's a new character, and you follow most of like her story throughout the whole thing. I can't talk much about Requiem. I'm like been trying to avoid spoilers, but I also don't know if I'm gonna play it. Not because I don't want to, but because I haven't said this before. I'm terrified of spiders, and they have a very, very detailed looking like giant spider section in that game. I don't know if I'm built for that. I don't think I'm built for that, you know. So, but seriously, but like you see, like a lot of Resident Evil is built off the fact that they're using multiple different characters to view the apocalypse through a completely different lens, right? Raccoon City is like perfect for that. You know, you have Jill, Claire, and Leon running around all at the same time. Who's to say this guy can't be, right? Like there's so much going on in the background of Resident Evil. You'll see like different journals, different notes from people that were obviously part of the situation, and you get like so much character and world building from that. And this movie, all that's going to do is make it so it's even easier to build off of that, right? But yeah, that's like my main thing. It's like, it's so weird, you know, or people saying Data refused to make a Resident Evil movie for the fans of the games, especially when you think about the fact that all of the previous ones, which, you know, let's be honest, none of those movies were really all that good. Honestly, they were pretty bad. Yeah, they were following the characters, but I didn't feel like that was made for the fans of the game, especially with the fact that the games have had remakes, right? At this point, this isn't like if Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 never got a remake, and, you know, you can only really see those through like the more like super old, you know, graphics don't really hold up, you know, gameplay's a little weirder type of deal now, but you can go and play the remakes of these games, right? So you really don't need them in movie version. Like, I'd much rather see like a different take instead of seeing the same story that I know what's going to happen. You know, I see somebody's like, oh, why am I supposed to care about this? Who is this MC? Where does this take place? It doesn't really make sense because it says it takes place in Raccoon City, and you can apply that to literally almost every Resident Evil game, right? Because most of them are following a new person you might not care about until you actually, you know, experience it, right? Like, that's my thing. So we got some first details on it. It takes place in Raccoon City during the events of Resident Evil 2. And it's going to have a POV of a normal guy with a first-person shooter action and wide lens shots over his shoulder. So it's going to be a love letter to the games, not in the sense of, oh, you know, we're following Leon Kennedy, but in live action. No, we're following the same story. We're not following the same story. You're following the same setting. You're following the same, like, overall narrative, but from a different perspective, you know. If anything, it might be better because you're going to be able to follow it from a narrative that's more relatable to you, right? Even says there's going to be Easter eggs for the games, including weapon progression and creature mechanics. That's awesome. Like, that is terrific. Like, Resident Evil has been able to do horror exceptionally well every time, right? So I really just don't see how it won't work, right? Like we seen in the trailer, we seen him, you know, scrounging around for different through different like drawers and stuff. Feels just like Resident Evil. Shoot, half of them are empty, just like Resident Evil. Be real with you. I can't tell you how many times you're doing that, or getting a new gun but you have no ammo for it, or you have very little ammo for it. Shoot, one of the scenes from it feels like it's just like a video game cutscene, right? you know, he goes to go pick up keys off of a dead body and then it gets pulled back, and that's how they introduce one of the new bioweapons. That's awesome. That's literally taken straight from the games, right? I saw that he said he wanted to focus less on the zombies and more on the bioweapon aspect and how the T-virus like interacts with the environment, which is great because that's always been a big thing that separated Resident Evil from like everything else. How you know, how it like mutates like plants and animals and stuff like that. Like there's whole portions of those games where you're dealing not with zombies, you're dealing more with like mutated dogs and crap like that, right? Or mutated spiders, as I just said. But yeah, like I'm super excited for this movie. This movie looks great. I think he's gonna do great. You know, I think this is gonna look amazing. I'm seeing theories, people saying this is actually the merchant from RE4. I don't know how I'd feel about that. But yeah, that's my thing too. It's like, you know, and you know, why would you want to redo the story of the games when you already have the games that do, when you already have the games that did pretty dang well? You know, it feels like my issue with The Last of Us TV show. Like when The Last of Us came out, I kind of wanted it to be more like an anthology thing where you see how that virus, how that interacts all over the planet, right? Instead of just following the same characters that we've already seen their story, right? And that was made worse with The Last of Us because that was such a story-driven like video game. So yeah, but yeah, that's kind of all I had to say on this. Like I think it'll be great because, you know, you're not going to be viewing it from a trained cop or a, you know, a walking badass like Chris Redfield or Leon Kennedy. You're viewing it from a regular guy. Like Zach even says, I wanted this movie to tell a story of what would happen if some idiot like me were dropped into the world of a Resident Evil game. You know, there's no combat experience. It's just a dude that's terrified for his life. And if you see some of these shots, these look great, man. Like these look great. Like it feels like they're going to be capturing the same like sense of horror that RE7 did when that first came out. So yeah, I'm super excited for this movie. I think the hate is already overblown. I think people need to like watch the movie first. Yeah, and I think he'll do great. I'm really excited on how they're gonna, you know, push the game mechanics to be in this movie. That's kind of all I wanted to talk about with the movie. I'm gonna be pumping out a bunch of videos in the next like day or two, so be ready for that. But thank you guys for listening or watching as always, and I will see you guys later.